Open up your heart to the ceiling. Don't you know it hurts for a reason? Time will take you back to believing. You'll learn to love again. You'll learn to love again. When I picked this title for this stream, I just got that Carly Rae Jepsen song stuck in my head. I love Carly Rae Jepsen. I do not I unironically love her. She's one of my favorite pop stars. Motion is one of my favorite pop albums. Cut to the Feeling might actually be one of my favorite songs. I like more of her songs than I don't, but that is still an embarrassing thing to admit because her biggest song is Call Me Maybe, which is not a well respected song. And it is one of her weakest songs. But welcome to, I gotta turn my mic down. Welcome to Media's live show. This is episode 4. The main article today is talking about Dust Queendom, but I originally wanted to do a stream about Jurassic World Evolution 3 that was announced last week. Jurassic World Evolution is, of course, very near and dear to my heart. I have streamed both games multiple times, and I will do so again whenever that game comes out. That will be the live show. The live show will just be me playing Jurassic World Evolution 3 and talking about it. They added babies and more robust terrain tools. I'm excited, but I don't want to like kill my own excitement by talking about it for an hour. And then yesterday I finally gave in and I watched the new RWBY fan project Dust Queen, which was announced like a year ago. And I really liked it. Everyone's been singing this thing's praise because it is a marvel of a fan project. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a fan project get this much love. The only thing that comes close is that Superman versus Hulk animation from like 10, 15 years ago. That had like 3 parts and it was just a banger. There's other like indie art project things that are floating around the internet and have been for years. Bravest Warriors is good. I kind of fell out of love with Bravest Warriors, mostly because they were forced to re-upload a lot of their episodes due to like circumstances with like their jobs, and then I could never like keep up with like what's a new episode and what's just a repeat. And then, of course, you got things like Hazbin Hotel, which have taken off. I do like Hazbin Hotel, despite its Reddit-brained interpretation of religious iconography that pisses me off more and more the older I get. But there's something special about RWBY, and I've always wrestled with this since the inception of my channel. Because I did used to love RWBY. Like, I used to look forward to its episodes more than anything else that was on at the time. Like, I can't even remember what else was coming out around 2013, 2014. Because RWBY was the only thing at that time that was holding my interest. Once you get into, like, 2015, 2016, that's when I got into My Hero Academia and Attack on Titan. That's when I first watched Attack on Titan. Obviously, I'd been around for a while before that. One Punch Man was also, again, like already several years old by that point, but I just gotten into it around 2015. So by 2016, like there were a lot of other things that I was invested in. And then, of course, in 2018 was when I decided to start reading and catching up with One Piece. Speaking of which, as per usual with the live show, we have to recap what I've been doing this week. I've actually been mostly doing writing. My big focus this week has been giving another pass over on Agents of Nightwatch Book 4, The Golden Key. There's a lot of characters, a lot of timeline stuff that I had to just keep editing and working on and just hammering out the details. The whole plot is being held together by a single dead character sacrifice. It's like, this is really important to like get right, otherwise the entire story will fall apart. And if Golden Key's story falls apart, then the rest of the series is going to fall apart, because this is a very big game changer in the series going forward. More so, way more so than the Grand Selection, and maybe even more so than the Nephilim Strain. Uh, and for those of you who have actually read my books or seen me talk about it, the Nephilim Strain was kind of like the true beginning. Like Hellfire Breast is kind of like an origin story for Oliver's adventures with Night Watch, and it's kind of just like, kind of freak of the week, just kind of giving you a vibe of the series. Book 2 is when the actual like main plot kicks in. Corlarva, the vampire, is going to continue to be a major antagonist for a very long time. It's the introduction of Morgan and Vincent, who are both very important characters in the series going forward. Even more so now than they were when I first conceived of it. And then obviously Nephilim Strain also revealed a lot of Rachel's backstory, and Rachel is like the third or fourth most important character in the Agents of Night Watch series, and definitely like the second or third most important person in Oliver's life. So again, very important book. Grand Selection was a big status quo change for like the Celestial Order, but not really for Night Watch. It was kind of a coming out party for Night Watch more than anything. And then Golden Key is going to be like, not going to spoil anything. The book will come out sometime this year. It's really just waiting on me to be satisfied with it, and then also have the funds to actually cover the printing costs. But anyway, there's other things going on this week. Witch Watch probably had its best episode. In fact, actually, I had these in order. I'm not looking at the order though. Witch Watch probably had its best episode. Officially introducing Wolf. He was technically introduced at the very end of last week's episode. Nemu Meow, fucking hate that name, has officially joined the cast. We got more of a, I think his name's Koga. We found out that he's a figure skater, or used to be a figure skater, and that he has this connection to Wolf. But yeah, I was actually starting to not like Witch Watch over the past like 2-3 episodes. After a really strong start, it kind of started to spin in circles and built itself on gags that I just did not find funny. Like, I just found absolutely no humor in any of the student council shenanigans that were going on in last week's episode. But this week's episode, the plot is kicking in. It's one of the prophesized days of disaster, which I know from cultural osmosis, it's not like the biggest day of disaster. Like, there's going to be like 4 or 5 of these events, or events of this scale, before we get to the like real climax of the story. I don't know much about Witch Watch going forward. I haven't read the manga, but that I've picked up a few details from seeing people talk about it, like the fact that it is revealed in this episode that the Koga, the hipster guy, is a werewolf, and obviously Nemu, like I said, Nemu has officially joined the cast and introduced herself properly. I have heard that those two get together and that they kind of dominate a lot of this story going forward, which I'm excited for, because Nemu's a fun character. One of the reasons why I didn't like last week's episode was because it was just doing the same gag with her all over again, beat for beat. And now that she's officially introduced herself, we're not going to be able to have that beat for beat rehash again, which is very good. Like I said, she's a very fun character, and I am excited to see her dynamics with the other cast members. And same thing with the Koga. I don't even remember if that's his name. Let me see. I keep calling him Koga, but I think Koga's the wolf guy from Inuyasha. Which watch? Keigo. Keigo, not Koga. That was close. Keigo Magami. Yeah. That guy. There was no One Piece chapter this week. Briefly talk about the episode, though. It was just the Tyrant Kuma thing. Was great. It was great seeing them animate or put in the Willem Dafoe meme into the thing, into the episode. Fun episode. More excited for next week's episode though, because we're getting more into the Vegapunk stuff. Then yeah, Witch Watch had its best episode. Can a boy girl friendship survive? I don't know where this plot is going, because it looks like Himari might be out of the story, but I don't see that sticking. I think we only got like one episode left of the series. Witch Watch, I'm not sure. I have heard that it might be a 2-core season. I'm not sure though. I hope they keep the opening. If Witch Watch does end up being 2 cores, I hope they keep the opening, because that opening is a bop and a half. Can a boy girl friendship survive though will be ending next week. And I have no idea where the story is going. And I like not knowing. I have enjoyed the show pretty thoroughly. And but I don't think I'm gonna miss it. I think that, like, it kind of depends on what happens next episode, if it just like resets the status quo, or if it actually like pushes things forward, or if we get a time skip or something heading into a new arc. Like I said, I don't know, because I was not expecting the guy to lose the bet. That took me off guard, and I don't like it. I don't like the way that he lost the bet. I don't like how he lost on like a technicality because his sister ratted him out. I thought that was kind of bullshit, and I think that it is really dumb that these grown ass adults are putting so many expectations on a fucking high schooler. Like, he is 17 tops, maybe closer to 16, maybe even 15. I don't remember, and I don't really care to remember. But they're like, no, you have to be like perfection in this like really niche industry, or we're not gonna like give you a break. It's not fair at all. It kind of sucks. What else was I gonna talk about? Okay. Yep. With that said, let's talk about Dust Queen some more. I don't know where this plot's going either. It looks like there's gonna be an Ice Queendom situation where Weiss gets taken over or gets possessed by Dust, which I think was I think that was like a plot line in, what was it called? RWBY Hereafter or Ever After, or it was the fan comic made by Dishwasher. The fan artist, he did his own like RWBY AU fan comic thing for a while. And I think that Weiss, like, having a dust overdose and becoming like kind of a crystal monster thing was a plot line in that, if I remember correctly. I don't know. It's been a long time. Um, this show gets the appeal of RWBY in a way I don't think very many other people have. What is the appeal of RWBY is certainly a question, and back when everyone was kind of turning on RWBY around like volumes 4, volumes 5, I feel like I had the best answer to this question. And it's something that like I has been lost with the all the like bitching and moaning about what happened during the Atlas saga in volume 9. But they say distance makes the heart grow fonder, and I think that is true. Because I feel like I enjoy RWBY more now, or at least I look back on it a lot more favorably now than I did back even when like volume 9 was coming out. I did say in like my volume 9 video that like I'm excited to talk about RWBY again, and then I never did. And that volume 9 made me like fall in love with the show again, and then I just I got kind of burnt out on the discourse, which is why I haven't made a RWBY video since then. Why like you'll notice that I've never made a video about like the RWBY Justice League crossover, and that's not actually RWBY's fault. My disinterest in that comes entirely on the Justice League side of things. I just do not give a shit about the Justice League right now, and I haven't for a very long time. I even tried like I think I said this on like Twitter or something where I was rewatching Superman the animated series. Great show, by the way. Perfect adaptation of Superman, especially like post crisis Superman. Um, and then I tried to like jump right into from that into Justice League, which is also a really kick-ass show that I love a lot, but I just couldn't stay into it because I am just so done with DC. And so the idea of anybody crossing over with DC Comics is just eye rolling to me. So even if I like loved RWBY a lot more than I do, I would have to be dragged kicking and screaming into the Justice League crossover. I just don't care. I really don't. Um, I will have to watch it eventually though, for YouTube purposes. But then again, you know what? Fuck it. It's my channel. It's my show. I can talk about whatever I want whenever I want. I don't even have to make videos. It's not like I'm a big YouTuber whose livelihood relies on this stuff. Like, no, fuck that. Fuck y'all. I don't have to do this. I'm doing this because I want to. Uh, just like I only watched Dust Queen because it interested me. Uh, Despite like not obviously not being canon and being a fan project, like the amount of effort impressed me. Like there's a lot of effort into this. There's a disgusting amount of people involved in this. I really hope that they didn't jump the gun on this. Um, I hope that like all the episodes for at least this storyline that they have in store are almost done. That way they can pump it out. Like I'm not saying like once a week or even like once a month, but I would like to have a full complete story by year's end. Because if I don't, then that's gonna kill a lot of the momentum and a lot of the interest for me. Uh Not a lot happens in this episode beyond character banter, but I think that character banter is really good. I don't think RWBY and Weiss have had this strong of a dynamic since Volume 1. And that was really refreshing. Hero Darky Dark said, hashtag freethinker. I don't know what that's alluding to. I am a free thinker. Did something happen to like Critical Drinker or something? I saw him like trending, but I haven't like looked into that because I do have a lot of respect for critical drinkers. At least like how he sticks to things and how he's willing to like change his opinion if it's wrong, like he did with Prey, the Predator movie. How he was like dogging on that trailer, but then when he saw the movie, like, nope, never mind. Movie's actually good. Wash my hands of that. Like, it takes a big man to do that. You don't see a lot of that. A lot of his critics doing the same. Uh, Your Darkest Hour, it's referencing to you refusing to watch the Justice League crossover. Okay, yeah. Yep. Uh, Never mind that then. Yeah, I think when the first trailer came out, I made like a Twitter video where it's just like, here's what I think of the RWBY Justice League crossover. Like it was like that for a whole minute. Oh, I can't believe they made Batman a fucking faunus. That's so antithetical to Batman. Uh, but getting back to like the question, like why RWBY? Because like I said, there's been a lot of other internet-based shows, some of which have been more financially, well, Red versus Blue was for a time more financially successful than RWBY was, but I don't know. Like I don't see a lot of Red versus Blue stuff out in the wild. Whereas I've seen RWBY stuff out in the wild, and not just the RWBY shirt I had for a minute. Um, and you think that as someone who is so invested in the series that this would be an easy question for me, but a lot of the things people point to are things that I didn't really like. Which is one of the reasons why I made this channel in the first place, was because I've told the story before that like RWBY is what like really pushed me to get an online presence, because I felt like I was going insane. I felt like literally nobody actually understood the show to like in the way that I did. Like no one really, even people who loved it didn't like really get what the actual appeal was. They were like, "Oh, this is all just oh, the choreography's good and the soundtrack's good." And, like those things are true, but like if you just want great choreography, why didn't animator versus animation take off? Why didn't a lot of these other like fan clash stuff take off? Like why is Death Battle the only one that has why that cornered the market on like pitting two characters against each other and having them beat the shit out of each other? Like why RWBY? Is it because of the world building? No, it's not because of the world building. I can tell you that much. Uh, and I think a lot of it is because the characters have a very strong aesthetic presence. Uh, Aesthetics are really important in a visual medium. Because as opposed to prose. In prose, you can get a lot deeper into a character's psyche. You can have pages upon pages of internal monologue and debate and dialogue and all this other stuff to really like get a full detailed description of everything that a character is thinking, everything that character is feeling, everything that they are doing and why and how. Like you can get into nitty-gritty details that can only really be done in prose. In a visual medium, you have to try to convey all that stuff in an instant. In a shot, in a pose, in a frame, in an outfit, in a hairstyle choice, in a weapon choice in RWBY's case. You have to try to convey as much of that information visually as you can. And I think RWBY leading into like fairy tale aesthetics helped ground that in something that we're already familiar with. So the show didn't have as much heavy lifting to do on its own. Even though they don't use the fairy tale stories as much as I would have liked them to, especially in Yang's case. There's not really much there that screams Goldilocks. Um, but I think all the RWBY characters have excellent designs, especially in the beginning, throughout the Beacon saga. Uh, One of the things that I think makes a great distinct character design is if you alter details, they can still come off as that same character. I've seen the RWBY girls and boys in all sorts of outfits, in all sorts of settings, in all sorts of scenarios, with all sorts of different aesthetics and art style choices and mediums. And they've always looked like the RWBY characters, or at least they've felt like the RWBY characters. It is a lot more like feeling than thinking when it comes to this sort of thing. It is an artistic choice. Art is subjective to a point. There are objective things about it, especially on like the technical level. But a lot of it is about like how does it feel, and that's where I think it really leans into the fairy tale stuff because fairy tales are very much the same way. Low Red Riding Hood always stands out because red is just such a striking color. Like when you think of linguistics and stuff, typically like white and black are the first like colors, quote unquote, to get words to describe them, and then red is the first of the 6 principal colors. It's like red, then like green and yellow, and then blue, and then orange and purple are last. In fact, in one of the books I'm working on, The Legend of Drakemire, I'm making it a point to never use the word orange because I want to create this feeling that it's set in a time and being written from a perspective where orange, as a color that is neither red nor yellow, hasn't happened yet. Like the people who are writing this Legend of Drakemire haven't come up with that word yet. Obviously, orange exists; they can see it, but they call it like a shade of red or a shade of yellow or like a gold or an autumn, like a color associated with autumn or a shade associated with autumn, but never the word orange. And I'm going to use purple very sparingly. And I'm going to use blue very sparingly too. That was a thing with the Odyssey, is that a lot of the things that we would usually think of as blue get described as gray in the Odyssey. Particularly like the eyes of Athena and the skies, which obviously skies are often gray. Like we still use that word to describe it today. But those aesthetic like feelings, that's why fairy tales can get revamped, rehashed, remade, rebooted, rewritten in so many different ways without losing the core of that story. Like this is actually a big reason why the recent Snow White movie failed. She's not Snow White. She doesn't fulfill the aesthetic requirements, and that's not even like a racist thing, but like her name is literally Snow White. She is supposed to like the only thing that makes Snow White is that she is supposed to be pasty even by Central German standards. She's supposed to be whiter than the whitest guy you know. Whiter than me for sure. You take that away and keep everything else the same, it's not Snow White. Change that one little detail, it's no longer Snow White. So even if Rachel Zegler was a good actress, which she's not, and even if she wasn't a terrible person, which she is, her casting as Snow White would still be a horrible idea. Like that is just miscast, way more so than like Black Ariel. That's Ginger erasure is a whole nother topic and thing, but there's nothing like distinct about Ariel that requires her to be white, other than the fact that it was written by a Danish author, and the Danes are very white indeed, and therefore recasting a Danish character as a black actress is a bit of a cultural vandalism, really. Um, but it's not as important to the character. Snow White being like pale and pasty and ghastly looking is a very important detail to that character. Weiss Schnee, whose name literally means white snow, uh, fulfills that aesthetic requirement. So she always feels like a Snow White homage, just like Ruby using the red cape. Like, all you really need is a red cape and hood, and you look like Little Red Riding Hood. So you have that detail, you can have her in any kind of setting, and should still feel like Red Riding Hood. And even if you take that away, so long as you keep like the red and blacks, or like Ruby's got enough other details, like the red highlights in her dark hair, the silver eyes. A lot of it's in her posing. Poses are a big thing in art and animation because you can convey a lot with a pose. Saw like a documentary on I think it was like Batman the Animated Series, where they talked about how like every single character has a key pose for all their like reference art. Like Batman is the stoic. It's him from that shot where he's standing on the building in the opening. Joker with the hands in his pocket. Two-Face always has like one hand in his pocket and one hand out doing the coin flip. Like the poses convey a lot about the characters too. Another point I wanted to make, as far as this goes, is the soundtrack actually does a lot of the heavy lifting as well. Wrong image. I think I'm on image 4. Yeah. Especially in like volume 1. Because they are short on budget, they are short on time. And when you have these kinds of constraints, you have to be a lot more economical with what you show and be a lot more strategic with what you don't. Show don't tell is a great starting line for a visual medium, but sometimes you don't have that luxury. Sometimes you don't have the budget to show all that stuff. And I think one of Volume 1's biggest problems is that it dwells so much on things that aren't important. Like the Jean Bully arc. And it makes a lot of mistakes in its execution. Like, it's a show about and I've said this time and time again, like the big problem with Volume 1 is that it's a volume about a team coming together where the team never actually comes together. Except once. In the midpoint of the volume, Players and Pieces, you get the fight with the Nevermore and the Deathstalker. While Red Like Roses 2 is playing. Red Like Roses Part 2 is the best song on the Volume 1 soundtrack. And it implies a lot about what's going through Ruby's head. And at first glance, that might be like, why is the scene with the team coming together so heavily focused on like having a song that is just about Ruby and her dead mom? Wasn't until Volume 9 came out that I kind of came around on this. Because so much of Ruby's character is informed by her relationship with her mother. And it's never really stated outside of the soundtrack. The soundtrack in Ruby plays the same role as the narration in a prose book. That conversation in the song between Ruby and her dead mom is, at least to my interpretation, what is going through Ruby's head as she steps up and leads this team of girls, and also Jean and Ren, but they're kind of different team, this team of girls, her, Weiss, Blake, and Yang, to victory against a giant monster. She is following in her mother's footsteps, and I've always had the like Ruby has a martyr complex interpretation of her character ever since the shot in the Volume 1 opening. I'm actually going to pull that up. There's a lot about the Volume 1 opening that I think does a lot of the heavy lifting here. Make sure that this is muted because I don't want the copyright. Wait, no, not this one. Here we go. And where's my display capture? Like this bit here. This is not anywhere else in the show. For a long time, this was the only thing we had ever seen of Summer Rose. And the only mention of her. Like, it wasn't even, like, fully confirmed that it was Ruby's mom. There was actually a big theory going that it was Ruby's grandmother. Because Little Red Riding Hood, going to Granny's house, Big Bad Wolf, blah, 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 blah. But this little bit here, like, heading into the opening. And this is also the Volume 1 opening, the full version is only ever played at the end of the very first episode, Ruby Rose. There's a highly truncated version of it that's played at the beginning of all the other openings. But this bit, this whole sequence conveys a lot more information about what Ruby's goal is, the way that it fades into this the scattering moon. It's just a very strong aesthetic that I don't think the show ever really tops. And it's only ever in this one bit and this one version of this one opening. But as the show goes on, I'm gonna go back to my image here. As the show goes on, it kind of like just reinforces that. And especially in Volume 9. Because the big climax of Volume 9 is Ruby realizing that she's not enough. Or that she's not good enough. Or that's the perception she has during the climax of Volume 9. It's that she's not as good as her mom, and even if she was, her mom failed, so what is the point? Like, why, like, if she drinks tea in order to try to, like, become something else, but then after some much needed therapy from the tree god, she realized that, like, she is enough because there is no such thing as a warrior who is strong enough to just outright defeat Salem. It's just impossible. And I said this in my review of Volume 9 that, like, the lesson that Ruby learns is that ascending or changing who she is a coward's way out, because deep down she has the heart of this warrior, this hero, this heroic spirit, and that is something that will never change. That is why in Volume 9, I'm going to pull up that scene now too. When you look back at her, like, doing the ascension stuff, all of the things that she can turn into are weapons. Where is it at? I don't know if this is the best shot of it, but I'm going with it. Oh, that's not the best shot. That is the end of it. Yeah, okay. You have axes, spear, the machete, another axe, a sword, a mace, the club of some kind. every single option that Ruby has to change into is just another warrior. Is just another person who will not be able to defeat Salem in a fight. And that's the lesson she has to learn. Like, she has to learn to accept herself, because and accept that, like, she's not going to be able to defeat Salem outright like that. She's going to have to find a different way, and the only way for her to find that different way is for her to remember her friends and remember everything that she's been through and everyone she's lost, everyone from her mother to Penny, and everyone in between, and try to utilize that information. Like, people are stupid, okay? Like, there's a lot of discourse surrounding that bit from volume 9 that I completely disagree with. I think people were absolutely interpreting it wrong, and there's a lot that is left to interpretation in art. It's subjective. You can read it into it what you want, but there are, like I said, there are objective qualities in it. And at the end of the day, Ruby did not choose to ascend. She was at a low point, a breaking point. She was pushed over the edge. She drank the tea. But then, when given the opportunity to actually, like, stop and breathe and think about things for a minute, she chose to not change herself. She chose to learn from her mistakes instead of just running away from them. It is probably an even more favorable way of interpreting that. Uh, Sorry, taking a drink. Ugh. So I think a big reason why I'm going to pull up the next image, because I think it's time to talk about when I really got into RWBY. It was actually volume 2. I thought volume 1 was just fine as it came out. Oh, nope, that is sorry. Yeah, that was coming from volume 4. So I think there's a lot of the stuff, especially I would say especially in the middle part of RWBY, the Mistral stuff. There's a lot of character moments that are just like, well, that hit pretty close to home. Uh More so than the first 3 volumes, and certainly more than the Atlas stuff, where things just happen and don't have as much rhyme or reason. But when asked about, like, why I ended up loving RWBY as much as I did, I always come back to the scene. I'm pulling it up now. Volume 2, Episode 6, Burning the Candle. This conversation between Blake and Weiss, where we get insight into Yang and Ruby's past, and the fact that they are, I would say that they are all from, like, a broken family. That interpretation does kind of get shafted when we find out that Blake comes from, like, an affluent family, and that, like, she had good parents, and that she was just a terrible person to them, a spoiled brat who ran away from home. Uh, does kind of, like, it kill a bit of the vibe on this scene, though. Uh, but it's a vibe. Like, this was a surprisingly human turn for the series that was going to just basically be magical girls fighting monsters. Um, Like the idea that Ruby and Yang are actually half siblings, and that they both lost their moms to different circumstances. Yang lost her mom because her mom's a piece of shit, and Ruby lost her mom because her mom is the exact opposite. And then in volume 9 you find out that Raven was involved in that, and it just kind of hits even closer to home. Um, I can go into this, and I've gone pretty deep into this in the past, but like this resonated a lot with me because of my relationship with my older sister, who is half sister, same dad, different moms, and that's a big reason why in my book series Agents of Night Watch, you got the characters of Rachel and Brittany, Rachel Maroon and Brittany Rembrandt, uh, who have a very similar, I guess, origin story. Um, I never considered that like Rachel was an analog for Ruby. She's actually more the antithesis of Ruby. She is everything that Ruby's not. But Brittany is a lot like Yang, in her feelings and what she wants out of life. A little more lovesick than Yang ever is. For those of you who haven't read my book, Brittany Rembrandt does have a huge crush on one of the prominent male characters, Dodger, and that is a driving factor in why she gets involved in the plot, especially in the upcoming book, The Golden Key. Uh, yeah. I did borrow a lot from Ruby, but it kind of goes back to like the whole aesthetics things are important. Brittany is aesthetically very similar to Yang. Long, luscious blonde hair. Brittany has blue eyes, um, and would never wear this outfit. Uh, she would wear the volume. She would wear the volume 5 outfit though. She would wear that. Uh, but this like longing and trying to find the balance between chasing after her mom, but also like living in the moment and being there for her loved ones, and how difficult that choice can be sometimes, especially under these circumstances that Blake is going through, watching the organization she used to care about be turned into a weapon against all of humanity. Um, Big part of Ruby's problem is that there's just not a whole lot there. Like I said, a lot of the music does a lot of the heavy lifting. There's a lot of like off screen shenanigans going on. A lot of off screen development. Downtime is something that a lot of shows struggle with. A lot of art authors struggle with. It's not something that comes easy because we try to like, and I'm speaking as an author, we try to like make everything important. We try to. I'm gonna actually pull up this. Yeah, the Mistral stuff now. Ricksart said, "Yo, what did I miss? You've missed a lot. Go back and watch the VOD after this is over. I've just been talking about I talked briefly about Dust Queen. There's not actually a whole lot there beyond the effort in the character interactions. Um, but Dust Queen did a lot to make me remember why I love the series so much. And a lot of it comes down to like the aesthetics, the character interactions, and the way the soundtrack is used as narration. Those have been my main points so far. Uh, you can create a lot. It's kind of like a toy box thing where RWBY is right for fan fiction. I think more so than anything else, and a lot of it is because the vibe, the feel of these characters is more important than any of the individual events that they get wrapped up in. Uh, the characters are better than the plot in RWBY, which is one of the reasons why they lend themselves so well to other stories and fan fictions and stuff, and things like Fixing RWBY by my buddy Raymond. He Fixing RWBY Volume 7 is coming out now. I'm actually way behind. I don't think I ever finished Fixing. I'm not even sure if I finished Fixing RWBY Volume 4. I've been meaning to actually go back and watch Fixing RWBY from the beginning, because I don't remember a whole lot. Other than like I remember a lot from Fixing RWBY Volume 3, because I actually helped on that one. Get bounce some ideas off of Raymond for like what the Vital Festival tournament would be like. That a lot of that stuff was stuff that I helped out with. Rickstar says, speaking of fan fiction, can we get a live stream of you going over RWBY on like you did with your old videos? Ooh, that would be so good. Oh, that's such a good idea. Oh, I haven't really thought about like RWBY on in a hot minute. Actually, that's not true. I do think about it a lot, because uh I like to repurpose my ideas. I like to repackage things. Alfred Hitchcock once said that self-plagiarism is just called style. Uh, and so a lot of the, like, I think I said this in my Writing Eliza Alcius blog post, that, like, a lot of the way that I wrote Weiss was carried over into the way I write Eliza. And a lot of the ways that I wrote Yang has been carrying over into the way I write Brittany. And a lot of the ways I write Ruby as a character have actually translated more into how I write Oliver. And then I never really liked writing Blake, which is why Blake doesn't really have an analog in Night Watch at all. Like, the closest thing would, like, maybe be a Kanako, but only because she has cat ears. Speaking of cat ears, that's a weird thing. Don't think about it. Don't think about the logistics of having two sets of ears. You're not supposed to. Does she have an extra pair of holes in her skull? Like, how do they actually work? I actually never understood the logistics of Blake's bow. Like, it's just a thin, like, ribbon thing. How does it cover up her ears? Does she, like, just make a bow and then tuck it into, like, her little ear hole flap things? But then how is it, like, look like a bow at the back, too? Like, is it, like, a clip? It's not a clip-on bow, obviously. We see her untie it. But, like, how does it work? I don't know. I've never understood it. It's cool, though. I actually prefer Blake with the bow, more than without it. In preparation for this video, I actually binge watched some Judgmental Critter videos. I have my gripes with Judgmental Critter. I wouldn't say I've beefed with her in the past. I really did not like the way she kind of, like, shot off at Volume 9 without having watched it. That turned me off from a lot of her content. But she has these series of shorts where she goes over everyone's outfits and brings up some excellent points about, like, how Ruby's cape serves as her own, like, backdrop. So her outfit always stands out. Like, it is impossible for Ruby to blend in with the background. Weiss's Mistral outfit is the most impractical and most formal looking outfit she's ever had, because that's exactly what it is. She's being trapped and literally, like, choked by her family legacy. Like, there's a lot of, like, really cool character details within the outfits, some of which I thought about, like the fact that Jean's armor in the first 3 volumes is very ill-fitting, and then he has, like, just regular-ass sneakers on his feet with ripped jeans and a fucking hoodie like you would buy at Walmart underneath his armor. Uh, and there's some things that I didn't really think about, like how Ruby Volume 4's like the sleeves on her outfit, the puffiness of her sleeves, kind of like gets in the way of her looking good in motion. Rickstar said, I admit I didn't get to read all of it, and when I discovered it during Volume 5, where I felt intimidated by its length and the surplus of OCs, one day I'm going to binge read it. Yeah, I might actually make a whole stream series where I just like go back over and criticize it, and it actually that would actually be a good way to help promote the Golden Key whenever I get closer to releasing that. I don't know if I'll wait that long to do a Ruby on stream because that's just such a good idea, and that could be something where like if I don't have any other ideas, I can just be like, here's part 2 of Ruby on because it'll take multiple streams to get through. It's 1.5 million words long. Uh, but yeah, that's such a good idea. If like I'm out of ideas, I can just tap into the Ruby on well and pick up where I left off. Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. Thank you. Uh, also slipped my mind to post about it, but I read your first book. I'm waiting to buy the other ones. Fun fact, when Oliver went super, Day of Fate, Spirit vs. Spirit came next on my playlist. Song totally matched the chapter. I'll have to check that out. I'm not familiar with that song. Um I always when I was writing that, and I obviously like wrote and rewrote that a lot of times, but the main thing that kept on playing in my head was a Strong and Strike from the Naruto opening, or not the Naruto opening, the Naruto soundtrack. Uh, the I don't want to play a bit of it because I'm terrified of copyright right now. I don't have the patience to deal with it. But thank you for buying my book. Um, and yeah, definitely get the other ones. Nephilim Strain, I think I am more than willing to criticize my own work. Hellfire Brats isn't great. Um, there's a lot of things that I feel like I misfired on with that, particularly when it comes to the villains. Uh, it is something that like in the Golden Key, minor spoiler, one of the villains from the Hellfire Brats makes a return in the Golden Key. And I even dedicate a whole chapter to be like, this is what I was going for with his and Dodger's dynamic. So here's that being fleshed out. Like, sorry for like not having this in the Hellfire Brats, where it would have been even more relevant. Um, okay, yeah, I do know that song. Rixar clarified. Glad I could help inspire you to do more videos. The song is When Gohan Turned Super Saiyan 2 in the DBZA version. Okay, yeah. I've only ever heard that as like Gohan's theme, or that's how I've always called it. Um but yeah, that does fit because it is like a really powerful, really like kind of heroic transformation, but it does have this underlining darkness to it. I know I've clarified this in the books, but the difference between like Demorans and Nephilim is that when Demorans like transform, it's all just an illusion. Like they don't actually look human; they just disguise themselves to look like humans. And I even have a line in the upcoming Golden Key where like Demora's like, "Hey, we adapt to our surroundings. That's just what we do. We always look like the most prevalent thing in whatever area we're in." Uh, Whereas Nephilim, when they transform, it is a natural transformation, but it's also a very visceral and violent transformation. Like every time Oliver transforms, his bones are like ripping through his skin, and like his wings are like sprouting from his black back and spraying blood, and it's a very violent, very painful transformation that as he gets more accustomed to it, it's similar to like Wolverine with claws popped out, X-Men, huge inspiration on Agents of Nightwatch. It's going to get less and less violent as he learns better ways to trigger his transformation. Particularly like eventually he'll like combust his body and like turn his body into flames and then reforge those flames into his Nephilim form, and that'll be like a really quick way to be like, boop, I got wings, and I'm 8 feet tall and can hit like a monster truck. Uh, Oliver is very strong. I missed most of the stream, so I want to fire some questions. I apologize if you've already talked about it. Go ahead. I love repeating myself. Yeah, I'm planning to reread Hellfire Rats before I buy the other books. Gnarly transformation. Yeah, I love it. I love I've fallen in love with Morgan, a character you'll be introduced to right off the bat in the prologue to Nephilim Strain. She was supposed to only be a bit character, a minor character who was only going to be relevant in like 2 books, and then I ended up really falling in love with her because of a scene in the Nephilim Strain, and now she's going to be in like every book. Maybe she's the Blake analog, because Morgan likes to read, even though like, yeah, I guess if any of the RWBY girls, or I guess if Morgan is like any of the RWBY girls, it would be Blake. Rickstarts asked, what would you say is the biggest idea you had for RWBY that you used for Nightwatch? I would say biggest idea I had for, because there's a lot of things that are like in RWBY that have similarities to things in Nightwatch. But as far as ideas that I had for RWBY that weren't necessarily there in the show, Weiss playing piano is a big thing in RWBY On, and it's something that I gave to Eliza as well. And I said this in my writing, Eliza, that like that I actually had this idea for like a platinum haired girl who plays piano even before RWBY was a thing. So a lot of that probably just Eliza in general, and the way she's written, but there might be something that's even bigger. It's a character who is going to be introduced in the Golden Key, who is only going to be in like 1 scene, but will play a bigger part later on. Her name is Nellie, and she is Prim. There's a character in RWBY On named Prim who is the second daughter of Ruby and Jean, and Nellie Lou is basically me repurposing that character. So that I would say that's the biggest thing, because Prim she's the star of the final saga of the RWBY On series, and Nellie Lou is going to be one of the most important characters in the end game of Nightwatch. Rick Starts asked, any hopes for Volume 10? Yes, actually. I have no idea what Viz is going to do as far as that goes. I would hope that they just make a Volume 10 and keep going forward with the story. I would also like to eventually see a straight up reboot a la the 2003 Ninja Turtle show. Where like they take the same exact characters and a lot of the same aesthetic stuff and just like change the art style, change the plot. I would maybe, like, if I were doing this, if I were rewriting RWBY from the ground up and not having to follow the plot outline of the actual series, I would age up all the characters and make them like adults who are like not like super experienced, but are like the rookies. They are rookie professional huntresses who team up in order to take down a big bad and then stick together because friendship. I would go that route with it. Uh, I have to answer that later. Someone tagged me in a thing on Discord. But it's a video, so I'll have to check back on that later. Uh, what else about RWBY that I like? Um, there's um. Rick Starks asked, "Are there any other inspirations for Nightwatch?" Yes, tons. I think when the Nephilim story was coming out, I actually did a post. Let me find that, and I'll actually show you. Uh, oh, maybe if I do this, I can find it. This exact phrase, Nephilim strain, specifically posed by me. Da, 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 da. So I'm trying to find. Maybe if I look for. Trying to find like a 3-year-old Twitter post. Um. There we go. Okay, found it. I'm gonna pull this up again. Yes, I used this Twitter light mode. So I made a post about like been hesitant to do something like this, but I also want to be honest with my inspiration. So here's 4 characters that helped inspire Oliver Turner. And I'll actually do a little more detailed version of this right here on the show. Um, so Oliver Twist is actually like the initial inspiration. Like a lot of Nightwatch was basically like, what if Oliver Twist was the X-Men? Uh, that was actually the initial idea I had for it. Or not the initial idea. The actual initial idea was just a superhero urban fantasy thing, where it was magic instead of superpowers. And the only principal characters were Sir Nightwatch, Dodger, and Eliza. Then when I came up with the idea of Oliver, that's when it became What If Oliver Twist, but the X-Men. Uh, so Oliver Twist, a dead mom, secretly has a great fortune that's basically been robbed from him his entire life. A lot of that with Oliver, and obviously like his relationship with Dodger, similar to Oliver Twist's relationship with the artful Dodger. Um, Deku, there's a lot of the hero worship, like the way Deku views All Might is very similar to the way that Oliver views his mom, and also they both have a tendency to use their power in very self-destructive ways. You have Joe Hardy from the Hardy Boys. Hardy Boys was an inspiration for like the kid detective angle. Again, kind of influencing Oliver's relationship with Dodger. And then Luke Skywalker because the good against evil. Um, There's other inspiration, but those are the four big ones. And I did the same with Eliza. Big inspiration was Anne Marie Johansson from Number of the Stars, a book I loved as a kid. Uh, Anne Marie Johansson influenced Eliza's Danish origins, as well as her kind of cultural displacement. Number of the Stars takes place in Nazi-occupied Denmark, where Anne Marie, little Danish girl, is being forcibly robbed of her culture and her language because of the Nazi occupation. And Eliza feels a lot of the same ways because even though she is Danish and loves Denmark and that is her home, that is where her heart is, she has been forced by circumstances to live in St. Louis, where she just hates everything about it. At least at first. That's part of her character arc is learning to love the place where she is, and learning to love her the people who are helping her out. There's also a lot of Weiss. I think that's the obvious one. Aesthetically, similar characters. Eliza's actually blonde. She doesn't have the white hair. She has this platinum blonde hair, and obviously the rapier, the use of a rapier, and the thin features, the thin frame. Like I said, a lot of aesthetic stuff with Weiss, and also the fact that Weiss comes from a very affluent family. That is something that she has in common with Eliza. Then Emi Yusa from Devil's a Part-Timer. This is straight up the way I wrote Eliza's relationship with Dodger, where they just hate each other and rag on each other, but deep down they actually like each other. They just need a kiss and make up already. And then Phoebe Lichten, played by the wonderful Elle Fanning, from Phoebe in Wonderland, movie that is also very near and dear to my heart. I wanted this is what inspired a lot of Eliza's anxiety disorder stuff. The fact that Eliza bites her nails and she spouts off a lot, and even though she has people in her life who love her, she still feels isolated because she is so distant. Another inspiration for this that I didn't address is The Ugly Duckling. The Ugly Duckling is a story that was written by Danish author Hans Christian Andersen, and the whole twist of that book is that the Ugly Duckling isn't actually a duckling, it's a goose. And that is the way that Eliza feels. She feels out of place within her own family, even though she loves her sisters and loves her mom and even loves her dad very much. She never felt like she belonged with them. They're all really tall, gorgeous looking people, and she's really short and has this her face is described as being boyish, and that was a source of bullying for her as a kid. And it's because she hasn't really found her place. And like I said, a big part of her character arc is learning to love the place she is and learning to love the people around her. And learning to love herself, and well, she doesn't really have any problem in that regard. I also did the same with Dodger. Harry Vincent from The Shadow, the first agent of The Shadow. Dodger is the first agent of Night Watch. He was literally born for it. Then another one, Artful Dodger, obviously, slick talking, streetwise, pickpocket. I try to make it to where in every book, Dodger will steal something at least once. I can't remember what I had him steal in the second book, or if I had him steal anything, but from now on, Dodger's going to steal something in every book that he's in. First book, he stole a lot. And stole a lot before the book. It's explained that he has a celestial compass because he's just straight up stole it from Eliza. One of the many reasons why she hates him. Then in book 3, he steals the Arknight Lawson's credit card, and then has Oliver buy a bunch of lottery tickets with it. Then Dick Grayson, Nightwing. A lot of Batman influence with the Agents of Night Watch. If Sir Night Watch is the Batman of his universe, then Dodger would be the Dick Grayson. And then Encyclopedia Brown, again, the whole junior detective angle. Dodger fancies himself as a junior detective, uh, though he is heavily reliant on his psychic powers to get things done. He's not actually that great of a detective. That's a big sticking point. I also did one for Amelia, not as important of a character, and a lot of this is kind of like overlap, like Wonder Woman, Atalanta, Pyrrha, and Gabrielle. These four are very similar characters. Kind of shows that like Amelia had like a really distinct idea of like she's an Amazon warrior, and so let's look at Amazon warriors or Amazon adjacent warriors and use those as like inspiration for her character. All right, what I misspelled this. Well, here's my next question. If they rebooted RWBY, what's the biggest change you'd want? I think I talked about where like I would just want I would want it to be more Freak of the Week. I said this during Volume 6 that I think RWBY lends itself to Monster of the Week type stories, and that would actually give a lot of characters room to breathe and a lot of opportunities to mix up the cast. Like, a big problem I had with Volume 7 especially is that the character dynamics felt stale. Because you had Blake and Yang constantly pairing up, constantly, like, up each other's butt, and, it came at the cost of the other inner team dynamics. If you have a Freak of the Week plot, I'm gonna get this back. If you have a Freak of the Week plot, then it gives a lot more opportunity to show like how does RWBY and Blake interact with each other when they're alone. When you have a show like RWBY being made the way that RWBY is, you don't have the opportunity to answer that. What's it like when RWBY and Sun team up, or when Blake and Jean team up? Like there's so many character dynamics that have just gone left completely unexplored because of how truncated RWBY's plot feels with trying to be an overarching plot. Um, like we don't get a whole lot of Yang with Weiss or Yang with any of the members of Team Juniper. We don't get like I don't there's so many characters that have like been on screen together a lot that have never really had a conversation, like Blake and Jean. Like what is one thing that they have said to the other that wasn't just like exposition? Pyrrha and RWBY, like I made a whole video about this, that like the missing piece of Juniper's arc was the lack of interaction between RWBY and Pyrrha, because they are like two pieces of the pod. They are two characters who are dealing with a lot of the same pressures and deal with it in a different way and come out of it in very different places at the end of Volume 3. RWBY comes out of it like still trying to fight, and Pyrrha comes out of it being dead. And the moment where RWBY watches Pyrrha die would have hit so much harder if they had a conversation at all. So many missed opportunities with the RWBY cast, because they are all such fun characters and have such cool designs and cool weapons that it's just a shame that we don't see more mix up. But if you make it a Freak of the Week, then you can have a different team up every single episode and build entire episodes off of those dynamics. That's what Justice League and Justice League Unlimited do. That's what Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes does. That's what X-Men always does, whether it's in the comics or in the cartoons. It's constantly like different team ups every week, every month, every episode, every chapter, every issue, whatever medium it's in. It's always different. It's always a different lineup. And RWBY has a big enough cast where like you can do a lot of that. That's a big thing that I like about One Piece. One Piece, there's 10 Straw Hat crew members, but you never see the same exact the same exact combinations more than once. Uh, like when an arc starts, they'll split up at some point, and it'll be a different split up every time. Like Dressrosa, it was Luffy, Zoro, Robin, Frankie, and Usopp. Whole Cake Island, it was Luffy, Nami, Chopper, Sanji, and Brook, and Jinbei. I think I said Sanji twice. Uh, then Wano, like Luffy is with Zoro, and then he's with Yogoro, and then he's with um Jinbei, and then he's with Law, Kid, Zoro, and Killer. Then he's with the Yamato for a bit. Then he's with the Heart Pirates for a bit. Then he's with Momonosuke again. Then he's on his own. Then he's interacting with Kid again. Like he's always bouncing around, and it makes the cast feel a lot more full and paints a more vivid picture of like what the full dynamic of this world is. And One Piece has a lot more characters than RWBY does, and it's constantly finding new creative ways to keep these characters relevant. Like we've been seeing that with Elbaf, with the mix up with the cast where it's like you have Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji kind of out of the action because they're just crazy fucking strong, and it put a lot of pressure on Jinbei in particular. But you also got Brook and Usopp who are taking shots at the Holy Knights, and it's alluding to like this past that Brook might have with the Holy Knights. Um, there's a lot of fun. There's a lot more fun that you can do that RWBY just hasn't tapped into yet, because it's afraid. It's particularly afraid to split up Yang and Blake, and I hate that. Like, whoop de doo, they're a couple now. Like, have them interact with other people. Like, we haven't had a really good Yang and RWBY moment in years. Granted, we haven't had RWBY in years by this point, but you know what I mean. Like, they had a really strong dynamic in Volume 1, the first couple of episodes of Volume 1. Then they had kind of the implied dynamic in Volume 2, like I said, with the Blake scene. And then, like, another thing I love about Burning the Candle is that, like, the scene with Yang and Blake is immediately juxtaposed with the scene with RWBY and Ozpin, where Ozpin's like, no, you can't live your whole life on the battlefield. RWBY's like, fuck. She's just pissed about that. She hates the dance floor. She hates like these like smaller moments, because she's got the heart of a warrior, and she would rather just spend her whole life just slaughtering monsters day in and day out. Uh, like the idea of a never ending war against the Grim would have excited uh Volume 1 and Volume 2 RWBY. Uh, Completely forgot where I was going at that point. But oh yeah, the implied dynamic, like when RWBY comes into the dance floor, Yang is like, "Oh, you look so beautiful!" Like, and then of course having right before that scene, like how much Yang is like sacrificing for RWBY to be there for RWBY and to push her forward. And then in volumes 4, like RWBY is a big thing that like is pushing Yang to go through her therapy and get back into the fight. Uh, and then Volume 5, the reunion, very touching. Volume 6, you don't get anything, and you don't get anything in Volume 7 either. And then in Volume 8, you get, or no, at the end of Volume 7, I actually, I think I made this exact same joke. Where, like, Volume 7, you get the revelation that, like, Salem is directly responsible for killing RWBY's mom. Like, oh, your mother said those exact same words to me, and RWBY has this mental breakdown when as like It just feels more real than it ever was. And Yang goes to console her there, and then Blake's there too, because heaven forbid that Yang do something without Blake. Um, in a post Volume 5 world. And then Volume 8 had a really good moment where like they talk about the Hound, uh, and that's a really good moment where like Ying's kind of in denial, whereas Ruby is just like soaking and just depressed because like that's what Salem wants to turn me into. She tried to kill Maria, but then now she's turning them into these grim monsters, and I think it might be because of our mom. And Yang is just, and then it becomes real to Yang too, and she breaks down crying. Like that's such a good dynamic. And then Yang is strangely absent from a lot of Ruby's development in Volume 9. And I kind of see the point because, like, if Yang was more attentive, then Volume 9 would not have gone the way it would have. You kind of can't have that plot unless Ruby is feeling isolated and alone and like she can't open up to her teammates. She's just bottling everything up because she's the team leader. She needs to be strong and reliable and someone that they can depend on and someone who could lead them. Like, she feels like she isn't allowed to be weak in front of them, and that's what causes all this pressure and anxiety to build up throughout Volume 9. The anxiety started building up in Volume 4. And we see that in Volume 4, too. And I think I addressed this in my review where, like, the whole, like, she feels comfortable opening up to Jean because Jean is in the same position as a team leader. And they have like this very, like, she's able to open up her heart to him and like confide in him in a way she feels like she isn't allowed to do with her own team. And that is one of the reasons why like Jean shouting at her is such a breaking point for her, because now it's like I can't even open up to the one person I was allowed to open up with. And that's when she decides that it's better for her to just run away and leave it all behind. Such a good time. I love Ruby and Jean's dynamic so much. But like it's this very unhealthy way of coping, and it's there as early as Volume 1. Like I think a Twitter account actually pointed this out recently, where like when in Volume 1, Ozpin has the badge and the burden speech to Ruby, and then Ruby takes that to heart, and then tells the exact same thing to Jean, and then Jean takes it to heart, and then they both, like, isolate themselves from their team, and that's what causes Jean to lose his mind in the Ever After, and that's what causes Ruby to nearly kill herself in the climax to Volume 9. Like, it's almost like this toxicity of leadership where, like, Ruby is putting herself on this pedestal because she believes that's what a leader should do, when really a leader should be the glue that holds everyone together, and that they should all have trust and faith in each other. Again, big reason why I love the Straw Hats and why the Straw Hats are the best team in all of fiction. Where, like, Luffy is the leader. He is the captain. He is the strongest. He is the one that they all rely on when it comes to kicking ass. But he's also a fucking idiot. And he knows that he's dumb. Like, he even says it as early as Arlong Park, like, I can't cook. I can't lie. I can't navigate for shit. But you know what I can do, Arlong? I can beat your ass. And I can protect them. That is my role. I am their captain, and my one sole responsibility is making sure that no one takes them away. And we see that, you know, all throughout One Piece, that gets reinforced. Like, and when he's away, Zoro's the one who steps up. On Skypiea, when he sees Zoro on the ground, he freaks out because, like, how did this happen? You were here. Like, and it's this wake-up call that, like, Enel is way beyond Zoro's capabilities and will require someone of Luffy's caliber to deal with. But yeah, every Straw Hat has their utility role within the crew, and Luffy heavily relies on them, and he allows them to check him, especially Nami. Like, Nami straight up disciplines Luffy as if she's his mom. Uh, and he doesn't like snap back and be like, "Why did you hit me?" And like, no, he knows he's an idiot and that he deserves every single punch that Nami has ever thrown at him. All right, catching up on chat. Ugly Duckling, huh? Eliza is also kind of like Noelle from Black Clover. She too also had ties to the Ugly Duckling. Never seen Black Clover. And I think I said this like a week or two ago on the live show where like I don't have anything against Black Clover. The art looks sick. Like I love the art that I've seen of it, but I just haven't ever really given it a shot. I miss Monster of the Week stories. Besides Sentai and my rewrite of RWBY, I focus more on one-off adventures during volumes 1 and 2. Yeah, yep, I can see that's a good way to go about doing it. There are literary media inspirations. Are there any real world inspirations in Night Watch, like cultures, historical figures, events? Yes. Um, the main villain plot of the Hellfire Brats was inspired by my experience living in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014 when all the Michael Brown riots started. Uh, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like Hamilton versus Jefferson stuff in the Grand Selection. And I'm always down to like throw in some real world trivia in my books. Grand Selection is filthy with it. A lot of diatribes about like Chopin and Rembrandt and like I said, Eliza plays piano. And there's a whole chapter where she like plays different songs. Like she plays "The Entertainer" by Scott Joplin. She plays Claire de Lune. She plays Chopin's Nocturne number 4, or Nocturne in C minor. And I build like this idea that like her heart is on a set of scales where like she's leaning towards the Celestial Order, but also leaning towards Night Watch, and she's having to make a choice there. Like the Grand Selection is called the Grand Selection because the Grand Selection is literally like a thing that happens. It's a like an election for leadership within the Celestial Order, but it's also a double meaning. I love having double meanings in my titles. Uh, so that's the surface level of the Grand Selection. The deeper meaning of the Grand Selection is that it is the point where Eliza has to make a choice, but uh, between her ultimate ambitions and the reason behind those ambitions, and has to like try to find a middle ground if she wants to like keep her position and also like live with herself. I should do no, I shouldn't. Like I should do a stream where I just read my books. No, I'd rather read RWBY on because it's already out there and free, and I want you all to buy my books. I don't want y'all to be like, oh, I'll just wait for him to read it on stream. No, I might read a chapter here or there if it's relevant to the conversation or the main topic. I might in fact I actually have the Grand Selection right here. I'll actually a little preview. Refer to my earlier question. If Dodger has an analog to a RWBY character, I'm betting Crow. Oh, I must have missed that question. You talked about how most of the main cast has been inspired by RWBY characters, but who would be the analog to Dodger? Crow? Ooh. I guess Crow would be the closest. At least like Volume 3 Crow. Like Crow's introduction and his fight with Winter is similar enough to Dodger and Eliza in their dynamic. But that, yeah, Crow's kind of I never really thought about this because again, like the trick to being a creative writer is that you don't tap the same well over and over again. You got to draw your water from multiple wells. Like I said, like there's a lot of Oliver Twist and a lot of X-Men and a lot of other '80s Marvel comics. Like JMD Mateus's run on Spider-Man is an inspiration, and so is Frank Miller's Daredevil and the Batman from DC Comics, particularly like No Man's Land era Batman, which is my favorite era of Batman because it has Cassandra Cain. Cassandra Cain is a big inspiration for Conoco. Um, and you know, there's a bit of Naruto. There's actually a lot of Bleach, and I didn't realize how much Bleach there was until I started watching Thousand Year Blood War. Like, oh, that's where I got the idea. I kind of feel guilty for ragging on Bleach all these years. I ended up drawing a lot more inspiration from it than I thought. Like the whole dynamic, the whole thing with the Celestial Order is very very similar to the Gote 13. Where like they're kind of introduced as antagonists, but they kind of become like a secondary protagonist role in a lot of instances. And Eliza, uh, there's a bit of Byakuya Kuchiki, but also a lot of Toshiro Hitsugaya and Eliza that I did not realize when I made that Twitter post about the inspirations for Eliza. I did not realize how much of her was actually drawn from like Byakuya Kuchiki and Toshiro Hitsugaya from Bleach. Arguably more so than Mice. So it was just so like subconsciously. I was subconsciously drawing inspiration from Bleach. Uh yeah, RWBY analogs for Dodger. Like Crow's the only one I can think of that even remotely fits. Sun, a lot of sun in there. Uh, I guess. Yeah, I think you know what? I think Sun is actually a better fit for Dodger than Crow is. Aesthetically, Crow because the darker hair, but like Sun being like hey da 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 finger guns, and also the fact that he's a faunus and Dodger is a Demoran, he's got goat horns, so a little bit of Sun in there too, I guess. Again, I didn't think about that when writing Dodger. So like that was not even I don't think like a subconscious thing. Uh I was thinking of Crow and Winter when it came to Dodger and Eliza. Yeah. Have you watched Evermorrow? I don't think so. What is that? If I see a clip, I might be able to give you a more definitive answer. Evermorrow. I have not watched it, but the faces are kind of weird looking. Not gonna lie. Uh, animated intro. Let's react to let's do something fun and let's react to this. I have heard of this. But I haven't actually seen anything from it. I wasn't even aware that it was out. So let's react to Evermorrow. I think Raymond was telling me about this at some point. This is some jank. I like the outfits. The Oscar. Wait, that's Alex from Volume. What is this like? Team with Ilya. Weird choice. Team Cardinal. Torchway. Oh, cute. Uh, That's pretty slick. Oh, they're doing the volume 1 opening thing. Uh huh. That's all I'm gonna show. Um yeah, I might have to check that out and get back to you on that. Uh I was gonna read a little excerpt from book 3. No, it's after this. Let's see, it's right after this. Ruth. Yeah, I think this is it. I just gotta find the part of this chapter. Ooh, on second thought, maybe I shouldn't because this might be a spoiler. Shit. That's gonna have a major. The part I was talking about with the piano that has a really major spoiler for the grand selection. So Rick Starks asked, I have one more question in me. Will we ever get another summer of love or perhaps a winter of indifference? No. And there's a very simple reason why. I have a job. That's the reason. Um, I have a job, and I did not have a job in 2020. The only reason why I was able to pull off something like Summer of Love is because I was able to spend every day, all day, every day, working on videos. Without that level of freedom, I will never be able to make daily content like that. It takes a lot just to build up the strength to do these streams. Yeah, so as long as I am employed, you will never get another Summer of Love out of me. As as much as I would like, I guess I could, if I spent like a whole year just making little videos and then release them in sequence, then I would be able to like pull that off. But like the answer is more so no. I'm not gonna put in that effort. But anyway, because I feel like reading a little bit, here's the prologue to the Nephilim Strain, Book 2 of the Agents of Night Watch. And in my opinion, maybe the best thing I've ever written. Nephilim Strain. No. The upcoming book, The Golden Key, is the best thing I've ever written. And I know that's just me, that is just market speak because it's my next book that will be coming out later this year. But I do confidently feel that I have outdone myself with the Golden Key. But that's not out yet, so it's not actually complete. So I can't really say it's the best. Right now, as far as things that you can read right now, you can buy my second book, The Nephilim Strain. Let's actually pull this up. Wait, do I not have? No, it's a PDF. No. Oh, I know why. I'm in the wrong folder. Boom. Here we go. This is the prologue to the Nephilim Strain. Love that cover, by the way. Panting, wheezing, lungs that felt like iron and legs that felt like acid. She wanted to escape. She needed to escape. She didn't know how long she had been running. She didn't have the courage to look back. The city was strange and full of festive lights. She didn't know how long it had been since she left home and found her way to Baltimore. She had been moved around a few times since then. All she knew was that she was still in America, or that she must still be in America. That being the case, she needed to locate a member of the Celestial Order as quickly as possible. She knew well enough that they were the only hope she had. She had grown up with stories of how terrifying their knights and crusaders could be to her kind, but she didn't care. Anything was better than the hell she had been subjected to ever since she ran away from home. She pushed her way through the bustling streets. She had hoped that the crowds of the city would dilute her scent, but doing so attracted unwanted levels of attention. It wasn't every day that people would see a 16-year-old girl with marks on her arms and legs, wearing tattered summer clothes in the early winter. She could feel every single person's gaze. All of their thoughts echoed in deafening pandemonium within her head. The countless inaudible thoughts quieted when she ran into a man in blue. She saw his badge and surmised that he was a police officer. That was better than nothing. Perhaps this man could lead her to salvation. "What's the problem, miss?" he asked. "You have to take me to the Celestial Order," she snapped. In the back of her mind, she could see how little time, how little hope she had left. "Look, kid, you have to be in some serious trouble." "But I can't just call the Arc Knight out of the blue." He sighed and pulled her into the nearby alley. "There's a hospital nearby. We'll get you patched up and see what we can do." "We don't have time!" The desperate girl fought against his grip. Her heart thumped with the power of an earthquake. Her mouth opened to voice a warning, but her throat had dried. No other noise escaped from her lips. She tried screaming, crying, shouting for someone to help, but like her warning, it was little more than a whimper of a mouse. A wave of red dashed through the alley. The officer's grip slipped and the girl fell to the ground. The voices in her head were muted, blocked by the psychic prowess of the one who had pursued her. He stood there, clad in black, with his head covered in a mask that looked like a pulsating human heart. The officer lay limp at the villain's boots. His severed head bore a twisted expression of agony as his wretched murderer repeatedly tossed it into the air. It made a soft, squelching sound every time it landed in the killer's palm. The man in the heart mask snickered as the officer's corpse was liquefied. All the juices swirled around and were sucked into the largest of the mask's valves. Now, Morgan, you should know better than to run from me," he said. The girl in question was crying and writhing in the agony of dreadful failure, yet he didn't want to relinquish the stranglehold he had on her voice box. "Come now. We have quite the trip ahead of us. My business in Chicago is done, and now we move on to St. Louis." He grabbed her by the arm and hoisted her up. "I have reason to believe I found another like you. Another Nephilim." That is the introduction of both Chris Crimson and Morgan Ravencroft, two prominent characters in the Agents of Night Watch, Book 2, The Nephilim Strain. That is actually him on the cover. This right here is supposed to be like the Valve, or I guess I didn't make this cover myself. Here's actually cover concept that I made using Photoshop. I actually used a shot from Naruto of Toby sitting in Naruto's windowsill, an actual PNG of a heart. This is more so how more or less the closest approximation I can make with my limited artistic abilities of what Crimson is supposed to look like. Love that they added in the poncho, though. That was a big part of the description. And the fact that he is missing his left arm. That is a very important aesthetic detail for his character. And there's also this mystery, like, wait, if he could, like, keep regenerating and keeps body hopping and has all these powers and can manipulate his body to such a degree, how is he missing an arm? Excellent question. With an excellent answer. That will be explained in the Golden Key. I've been going for about 2 hours now. I think that's actually going to do it for me. Buy my books. If that didn't get you wanting to buy my books, I don't know what will. Um, but yeah, next week, I'm not sure. It looks heartfelt. Fuck you. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you all for watching. Next week, something different, or maybe more of the same, or maybe I'll actually start doing that RWBY Odd read through, because now that that's in my head, that's not gonna go away anytime soon. But yeah, tune in next week.